Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Another exciting show, another exciting guest. 7 a.m. where we're about to go, 7 a.m. 5 p.m. Indianapolis time. But we're going to Australia. And I know people are like, wow, Australia. I love Australia. I like Avalon. I like Sydney. I like all that. I like everything about Australia, except for the snakes. They scare me. The deadliest snakes in the world are in Australia, but also the deadliest women in the world are in Australia. And we definitely have one of the deadliest inspiring women who's taken the social media by storm. Let's welcome all the way from Australia, Miss Liz Rose, to the show. Liz, what's going on?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Love the accent. Love it. Pleasure to be there.
Thank you. I love yours also.
Before we get started, tell me a little bit about who Liz Rose actually is before we get into your journey of that beast mindset and basically what you're doing with social media and what you're doing with modeling. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're born and raised in Australia. What part of Australia? Give us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, sure. Well, I live in a little town just south of Sydney, so most people will be familiar with Sydney. So I live in a little coastal town down the coast from there, which I absolutely love being near the beach. It's wonderful. So for me, I've worked in the corporate space for, over nearly 3 decades now, and I've worked with senior leaders and executives and done coaching with them and all of that sort of thing. But then on the other side, I've also done quite a bit of modelling all through my young years, and even as a more mature woman now, with a wonderful agency called Silver Fox Management, who are absolutely wonderful. And yeah, so I do a little bit of modelling through that agency, and I've kind of recently started to post some of the information that I've gathered over the decades on body language and psychological ways of being able to relate to people and connect with people and understand people better. And so that's something that's kind of really starting to take off. It hasn't been going for very long, but people really seem to be taking a shine to it. So I guess they're kind of the elements of me in terms of what I do with myself. And I'm a mum also, so I have 2 older children who I love dearly. So, yeah.
Let's go back a little bit, because your journey started with not even trauma. It started with a young girl being shy. And now you're modeling, now you're teaching body language. Let's go back a little bit as a young girl. Explain how being shy kept you from evolving.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a huge thing for me as I was a young child. My mum, I can't remember, but my mum tells me stories of me hiding behind her legs. When somebody goes to say hello to me, I was quite terribly shy. So it's been a huge thing for me overcoming that. I think I've always been on the sidelines, a little hesitant to speak up when I was younger. And so it's really taken a lot of intentional effort over the years for me to step out of that comfort zone. And as I grew older, I've really made a point of challenging myself in social situations. I've placed myself into career roles that required communication. And eventually I realised that confidence isn't something that you kind of wake up with one day. It's something that you have to build through doing things, through action. So, looking back, I'm really proud of how far I've come. Now I love connecting with people, sharing ideas and engaging in conversations like this one with you.
You talk about the handicap of your situation, being shy. How long did it take for you to come out of this? And when did you recognize that you was either going to have to face it, deal with it? And if so, what age was it that you started to come out of it and evolve? And what was the steps that you did to help you transform out of the shyness to keep your career moving a little bit further?
Yeah, I think I've always, I probably first really recognized it as a teenager. And then as we all do, we kind of put this mask on and we pretend to be confident and we pretend to not have that social anxiety or that shyness. So I think I started to develop it without really knowing what I was doing. I kind of started to develop working on that as a teenager. But then when I had children in my early 20s, things that you go through kind of ask more of you. You have to speak up for yourself. You have to have an element of confidence. Otherwise, you kind of can't really get through life successfully. So I think it was in my early 20s that I really started to work on it. And then what I started to do is I got myself educated and I started to apply for positions that seemed a little scary, a little out of my reach. And I've really, ever since then in my early 20s, when I started doing that in terms of my career, I really have made a point of challenging myself and trying to reach just a little bit further than I think I'm potentially even capable of. So I've always taken the attitude of say yes and then figure it out later. So it's been a slow evolution. There wasn't a particular moment in time where I woke up one day and I decided that I'm going to be confident, Liz. It was an evolution, and I've been working at it every day since, and I still work at it.
Now that you can look back on that, what are some of the opportunities that you probably bypassed you because of the fact that you had this situation happening to you? Because usually it takes a series of things, trials and errors, what we might call it. But what were some of the opportunities that were missed? Even though you were young, these are still opportunities that your shyness probably handicapped you from getting it. Now that you can look back, what were some of those things?
I think some of the opportunities probably when I was a young person were around my, I think
you have
some
a
of
friend
the
on board with us. We have a little feline friend on the set with us.
I did shut the door, but she loves to bust her way in. So
That's all right. That's all right.
So so I think probably some of the opportunities, I feel like I haven't really missed out on any opportunities in terms of my career. That's an area where I really feel like I've pushed myself and I've challenged myself and I've done quite well in terms of that area. So I've really made sure that I didn't let that hold me back. But I think probably when I was younger, maybe in my teenage years, was more around friendships. So just being a little quieter, not engaging with people as much or in the way that I potentially could have. If I knew what I know now and I could do my time again, I probably would be somewhat different. Even though I had a nice small friends group, it didn't sort of hamper me too much, but I feel like I really noticed it then. Yeah.
What was the breakthrough moment for you? You're taking jobs that are opportunities, not say jobs.
Yeah.
You're taking opportunities that you normally wouldn't take with a little bit of fear factor. Let's be real. This is you're stepping into uncharted waters. Well, you're from Australia, home of the great whites, so it's not like you haven't been in the beach.
Terrifying.
Yeah, but you've gotten into the water with the great whites. But what was the most challenging part for you? Like, do you remember the road that you took, or was it several roads to get to where you was at, where it was your breakout?
Well, I think what happened to me, I think my career trajectory kind of highlights this quite well. So I think I was, earning minimum wage. I was doing jobs that were, perfectly fine, but not really what I wanted to do. And of course, they didn't have the earning potential. They didn't have the earning potential that I would have loved them to do. And I had a very young family at the time, and I was very conscious of, setting my family up and having a good income so that I could have a good life for my family. So I think the turning point came for me was, one day I was scrolling through Seek and I was looking for career opportunities, and I just realised that if I wanted to be able to earn more and provide more for my family and do the things that I wanted to do, I was going to have to do something a little bit different. And so that's when I decided that I would go to university, I would do my studies, I would further my studies, and really just start to push myself and aim a little bit higher, and put myself forward for things that I might not necessarily be completely qualified for, but I was willing to give that a go. So I think that was the turning point for me, where I really wanted more from life, And I felt that I was kind of holding myself back. Yeah.
When you took the embarkment to go to the universities, did you have any sense of what you wanted to get into? Because you're coming out of shyness, you're taking minimum wage jobs and so forth. Did you have I guess prior to that, did you really have a career path? And when you wind up going to college, how did you determine what career path that you wanted to go? Because if you're shy, you're not opening up a whole bunch of doors for yourself. So you don't really know what career journey you're about to embark in. So how did you wind up selecting that going to college?
Yeah, absolutely. You're so right. I think, well, I had kind of fallen into the HR space, so in the human resources space. I had been doing administration work prior to that. And then I found myself in a sort of entry-level HR job. And so that kind of, I was enjoying it, and I wanted to learn more and do more and further my career more in that space. So I think that was, that gave me the direction when I decided to go to university. I would do my bachelor degree in human resources, and then I went on to do a master's degree, and I did some psychology as well. So I think, that kind of gave me the direction that I was going in, and I kind of just stayed in that direction, and that's what's led me to, having a very full career in human resources and doing that executive and leadership coaching as well in that space. So, yeah.
We had a young lady that was on the show. Her name is Dr. HR, and she talked about human resource. That was her specialty. She actually left working in human resources to do her own human resource stuff. So this is going to make sense to the viewers in a few minutes. Being shy, going into human resources to where now, and I could be wrong. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong here. A human resource person interviews people for jobs. So that way you have to recognize strengths, weaknesses, but more importantly, you don't get to really see that because that's on paper. The only thing you have to work with right now is body language. Verbal communication skills and body language. Listen to this question because I'm about to give it to you. Based on what you went through, what do you see as a handicap for people that now come to you that you have to do a verbal and a communication evaluation? Because you don't know my strengths at all. I'm only telling you that's a whole different ballgame. That's for the supervisor now to take over. You get the first eyes on me. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses that you saw in yourself, flipping the script, and that you see in others that come to you?
Well, I think when you first see somebody, the first thing that you recognize as a fellow human is their body language. So they're already communicating with you before they even open their mouth. So you're taking in, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're taking in the visuals of this person. So how they hold themselves, their posture, whether they're smiling, whether they have pleasant facial expressions, how they're dressed, all of those sorts of things. You're taking all of those things in. So I think what can really hold a person back is when they have, they're communicating the wrong body language, or their body language doesn't align with what they want to communicate. So their words might be saying one thing, but their body language is saying something totally different. And that misalignment is where it causes lots of problems because, above 75% of communication is, non-verbal communication. So it's really, really important. And it's an area that most people aren't really sure of. They don't really understand how to decode body language. But it's a very, very important skill to learn. So I think, projecting the right body language, smiling, open, that open, confident body language is really, really critical. Yeah.
Now that you know this, just go back. Let's put you in the seat. What did you not bring to the table when you was going to be interviewed by HR? Because you hadn't honed down on your craft yet. So when I'm going with this with the viewers is letting them know, okay, you didn't have that body, the body language. You didn't have the skill set at that time when you're going for these interviews. But now that you're looking back, what do you think were some of the things that you was clearly missing? Because a lot of times opportunities don't come because HR has a rules of engagement that they have to follow when they're hiring. You had to go through those, but you didn't know that. But looking back now, what were some of the things that you were missing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, I certainly bombed out on quite a few interviews, and I will preface it by saying that when I was working on developing my career and progressing my career, I intentionally went for a lot of interviews. So I would regularly go for interviews for positions, some of them which I had not necessarily any intention of taking the job if I got it. I just wanted to practice. And so I think that's a really key word, is practice and patience. I don't think it's something that you can just make a decision and overnight you're suddenly, displaying this perfect body language and you're engaging with people in a perfect way. I think it's a progression. It's something that you continually have to think about and work at if that's something that's important to you. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I answered all of your question there. I think I might have missed some of it.
But what were you practicing? What were you practicing? Because you had no idea on where you was fumbling up. So unless somebody gave you, okay, let me use another scenario here.
Yeah, I get you. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a professional bodybuilder, I'm getting a score sheet from 12 different judges.
Yep.
They're all going to look at something and tell me why I placed where I placed. You're going for the job interview. Are they sending you a letter in the mail saying, you know what, we liked you, but you know what, your body language wasn't hitting. We liked you, but you didn't give the right questions. So how did you know what to perfect? Did they give you the insight and said, look, you're great, however, yada, yada, yada?
Well, I think a lot of times when you go for an interview and you may get some feedback from the organisation, sometimes they don't give you any feedback at all, but sometimes they're very helpful and they do provide feedback. But I do feel that it's quite, it's not always giving you all of the detail or necessarily the things that truly made them not decide on you as the correct candidate. So you do have to take in the feedback that they give you, but you also need to kind of analyse your own performance and really kind of think about where you may have gone wrong. So I really went into every interview with the intention of doing better than the last one. It's just this gradual process of improvement. And so it was almost not a game. I wouldn't say that it was a game, but it was almost like a little competition with myself to do better and improve. And I think certainly when I first started, I had no idea about body language and things like that when I was in my early 20s. But I was able to recognise what people responded to. And so when they responded well to something, I registered that. And when they didn't respond well to something, I also registered that. So over time, I think I built up the skills. In the early days, when I would do interviews, I would think that it's all about what you say. What you say is the most important thing and you have to have that perfected. But actually, it's not always very much of what you say. It's how you present, how you come across to them, and whether they think that you're somebody that they can work with well. Are you going to fit into the team? Are you a good, likable person? So it's all of those things, but I just didn't realise it at the time. I thought it was all about, saying the right things. So, yeah, but body language plays a huge part. And as I did more interviews, I kind of picked up on that. And so I would use more confident body language. I would keep myself a little more still and composed during interviews. I would use, movements like the steeple movement, perhaps, because that conveys confidence and authority. And so using the right body language cues gives them confidence in you. And that's just how it works. That's just how we operate as human beings.
What really perfected your craft? You mentioned going to college. What did you learn from that as it pertains to your career? What did the college aspect or educational aspect help you with? And what part of human or HR which part of your education package made you better at presentation, body language, both verbal and communication?
Well, this might be a little controversial, and I definitely don't want to discourage anybody from pursuing an education, but for me personally, I would have to say that my education wasn't really the place where I found the answers to that. I didn't find answers about being confident in the workplace, or using the right body language, or how to engage with your colleagues and stakeholders. That wasn't where I got that information. For me, what I found was that my university education gave me the tickets that I needed to be able to apply for the positions that I wanted to go for. So it enabled me to walk through the door. So, but really learning about those things for me came on the job. So I've worked in various organisations, and I think, developing your presentation skills, how you speak in front of a crowd, all of those things come from practice and from doing, and it's taking an attitude of continual improvement. So one of the things that I always made a point of doing, and sometimes if you can buddy up with a person at work, it's really helpful. I had a great colleague at work through the years who I could bounce things off and I could get feedback from. So after every presentation, or if I was standing up in front of a crowd talking about something, afterwards I would go to her and I would ask for feedback, and I would say, give me the ugly feedback. I want to know what I didn't do well. Don't tell me what I did do well. I know what I did do well, but tell me what I could have improved on. And in doing that, that really enabled me to just continually improve. And it's just, like I said, it's a gradual process, I think.
You deal with HR, you deal with body language and communication, which we're going to get into with the next part of this conversation. Working in HR, what are some of the crippling factors that you're seeing with individuals that are trying to get into the workforce?
Some of the crippling factors, so some of the barriers, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, look, people need to obviously, have the education, and sometimes it's a bit tricky because, we're all looking for people with experience, but in order for people to get experience, they need to be provided with an opportunity. So that can be really challenging for people. But there are avenues around that. People can get experience in various ways if they put their mind to it. That's, something that they can do. And look, I think in terms of barriers, it is things like, just being prepared, preparedness in interviews and things like that, just to give yourself the best opportunity. But really, learning how to speak and engage with people and connect with people, and how to quickly establish relationships with people is so critical. It's really, really important. And I think learning how to do that and focusing on that will really get you far in life.
What are at least 3 of the major starting points that you would recommend for somebody to make this an easier transition? Because you went to college, you had to figure it out for yourself, but now that you have figured it out, what are the top 3 things that you would recommend for people to help improve these skills?
Well, I think one really important thing is to, if they suffer from self-doubt, which I think most human beings suffer from self-doubt at some point in time, I think, really trying to work through that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome can really hold us back in a lot of areas. So really just trying to understand that, you have the right to succeed, to be happy, to pursue the things that you want to do. You have just as much right as everybody else. And honestly, sometimes a lot of people are somewhat faking it, and it's the people who will just willingly put themselves forward, even if it's a bit of a stretch, even if it's a bit of a reach for them. They will put themselves forward for things, whereas other people take the attitude that, I couldn't do that, I'm not qualified enough to do that, or I'm not important enough to do that. So I really think it's just re-looking at that attitude of self-doubt. And I think the other thing that can hold people back, and this was certainly the case for me, is when you don't have a clear vision of where you're going or where you want to go. That's something that honestly has somewhat held me back throughout my life, because if you don't know where you're going, how can you get there? It's easy to feel, lost, or like you're falling behind compared to others who have it all figured out, and at times for me, I've questioned whether I'd ever find something for myself that truly clicked. But what I've learned is that doubt doesn't mean that you're failing. It's just part of the process. So I've figure that out. And instead of fearing uncertainty, people just need to embrace it. And the more they lean into that, the more confident they'll become in their ability to, adapt, learn, and carve their own way forward. So overcoming that mindset shift is really important.
How difficult was it for you as you got older to shift that mindset? Because you mentioned at least two key words here. You mentioned imposter syndrome and you mentioned self-doubt. How difficult was it for you to understand those and work on removing those in order for you to move forward?
I think it's awareness is really important. So if you have awareness of something, then you can sort of take steps to correct it. I think just recognizing that, you do suffer from self-doubt or imposter syndrome, and that actually most people at some point do suffer from imposter syndrome. It makes it more relatable. It's not just you that feels this way. So, and I think, you just taking an attitude where you have to be willing to do difficult things. You have to be willing to push yourself. If you want to stay in your comfort zone, that's totally fine, but you have to understand that you may not be able to progress in the area that you want to progress in. You really have to be able to push through those barriers, those mental barriers. So I think that's, something that is just a gradual process. You have to keep working on it. It's a daily thing. It's a daily thing that you need to do.
How did the doors open up for the Silver Fox Management? You're a model. When I think Silver, I think about my beard, mature man, mature woman. Where did the Silver Management, how did all that come about for you? And how much of your expertise with body language and communication did you bring into the interview to get even picked as one of the top Silver models?
Well, that's actually a really good point, and I've never thought about it before. I've never really thought so much about the connection, but it is such a good point. And I think to take it back, I've been doing modelling since I was quite young. So since I was in high school, I've been doing various types of modelling, and I've modelled for some quite large brands that everybody would recognise. So it's kind of been a feature in my life all the way along, even though I haven't made it my full-time career. I've really worked in the corporate space, and that's been my thing, but doing the modelling has always been there. It's always been in the background, and it's always been a love of mine. But I think even when I was younger and I was doing the modelling, body language absolutely plays a huge role in it, because when you are modelling, you do have to present a certain type of body language, even to get your foot in the door. Like you said, with an agency like Silver Fox Management, you have to present yourself in a certain way. And I did that when I went to meet with them. I, submitted my photos and made some inquiries. They were interested in what they saw, and then they invited me for a meeting, and I went along to that meeting. But had I turned up to that meeting and, had my arms crossed and been looking down at the floor and not making eye contact and not engaging with them, I don't think that they would have, remotely given me an opportunity. So it's really just engaging the right kind of behaviours to communicate what it is that you want to communicate. And I think it's something that can be learned. It's really just kind of like a set of behaviours that we learn. So, when I was young and I was shy, I was really just demonstrating all the behaviours of a shy person. So what I had to do was really learn a new set of behaviours of somebody who was confident. And so you can just replace those behaviours with different behaviours. And I'm not saying it can happen overnight and it's going to be, a perfect transition. It is a gradual thing, but, if you think about it like replacing the behaviours of a shy person with the behaviours of a confident person, and you start to consciously do that, you'll make the change. You can absolutely make the change. I think anybody can make the change if they really want to.
Why Silver Fox? You're a beautiful woman. You've been modeling for years. I'm pretty sure you're very selective in who you want to photograph you. I know you're selective in who you want to carry your brand. You're from Australia. Why Silver Fox?
They're a wonderful agency. I was absolutely thrilled. I had actually submitted myself forward for a few agencies, and I did have a few positive responses back. But I ended up going with Silver Fox Management. They were the ones that I really wanted to work with. I love their ethos. I love what they represent. You know, they're very they represent older models, and they present them in a way that it's just wonderful. Like, we have, you know, 90-year-old models on a catwalk. It's just incredible. It's just changing the perception of older people, and changing society's perceptions of older people and their use by date, so to speak. So I think that dialogue is really starting to change, and Silver Fox Management, I think, play a huge role in that. And I'm really proud to be working with them. I think they're an absolutely wonderful agency, and I love what they represent.
What are people saying about the mature Silver Fox women? What are they saying behind the scenes? That you guys shouldn't be there, or you guys are the new face of a generation that people once thought couldn't cut the mustard, so to speak? No,
not at all. From what I see, I think people are absolutely embracing it, and you can see it now with brands. You know, you'll see commercials for brands on TV, and they're embracing grey-haired models, and they've got young women mixed in with older women in their campaigns, and it's just beautiful to see. They've just been missing out on such a large proportion of the market. It's been crazy that it's taken this long for them to recognise this, but I think their brands are really starting to embrace it. Even young people are really starting to embrace it. I follow many people on social media who are older influencers, or just older people online who I think have a wonderful message. And I look through the comments, and the comments are just so wonderfully positive. You know, young people are saying, I want to be like you when I get older. And, you know, it's lovely to see. I think people are really embracing it.
They want to be like you when you get older. I mean, do they really need to say that when you get older? I mean, I can't think of any woman right now that would trade her hair color to turn silver. How difficult was it for you to say, okay, I'm going to be typecast in this particular realm of women, and let's get real? I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Too, maybe it's a culture thing, or a state or country. But in the United States, I don't know many women I can go up to and say, dye your hair silver, or dye your hair gray. They will look at me like I'm crazy. So why do you feel like do you feel like it's harder to be accepted in the United States versus like Australia and London and other areas?
I don't necessarily know. I mean, I'm probably not the person to comment on that, but I think from my own, from what I think that the perceptions and the judgments that people have, that human beings have, is probably quite similar wherever you go, whatever country you go in. And I think, you know, for me, I can only talk to my personal story. Excuse me. I can only talk to my personal story, but for me, I had been collecting beautiful images of beautiful women with long silver hair for a really long time, and it was something that I always knew that I wanted to do. But you know, overcoming those opinions of other people, it's not easy. It's not easy, and particularly when you first start growing out your grey hair, like I did. This is almost 2 years worth of growth, and I've still got a little bit of colour on the ends, but I'm not ready to let that go yet. So, but
wait a minute! Don't do me like that. Don't do me like that. Why are you afraid to let it go? And was it how difficult was for you to really accept that you're about to change? You're going into a whole different part of your life now, and you're representing silver. So why is it difficult to let the rest of it show?
Well, it's not difficult, but for me personally, I quite like long hair on myself. So I could chop my hair off at my chin and I would be completely transitioned to grey, but I'm not ready for that short haircut. So it's not that I don't want to be fully grey. I absolutely do. But when my hair, as it grows out, I will get rid of the coloured bits on the end. So, but yeah, I'm absolutely ready to embrace.
Can't you dye it? Can't you dye it? Can't you dye it?
Did I dye it?
No, I said, can't you dye it and go completely silver?
Well, you can, but it's quite a process. And for those who understand hairdressing, you would have to bleach it completely white almost, and then put a silver toner over the top of it. And my hair is very fine and very delicate, and it just can't cope with that process. So I actually did have a wonderful hairdressing salon approach me and said that they wanted to do the full transition on me, but because of the bleaching process, I politely declined because that would just destroy my hair. So I'm happy just to take it slow, let nature take its course and just do its thing. And I think, I think it's a wonderful thing. And I want to show that you can be grey and you can have beautiful, long, healthy hair. My hair is the healthiest it's ever been, by the way, because I stopped dyeing it. And I want to show that you can still be a beautiful woman or a handsome man and have grey hair, and you don't have to look like a little old granny in her nightgown and rollers. You can look, beautiful and radiant and still be fully participating in life and doing all of the wonderful things that you want to do.
Well, thank you for mentioning us men. Because I love my silver and gray or whatever color. I love it. I embrace it like you would not believe. I've actually got, it's really funny. And this is my question to you. When I started to let my gray go out, or silver, I call it silver, and blonde or whatever goes out, it's amazing the number of people that come and talk to me. And they ask the same question, like, how long did it take? Is that natural?
Yes.
How does it become salt and pepper? How do you make it wave up? It's a conversation piece that never gets old. And I get more from men than I do women.
Yeah, that's so interesting, isn't it? I've experienced the same thing, but I have to say I've experienced it from men and from women. They're quite fascinated and they're very positive about it. I think the grey looks wonderful on you. And, I think people are really interested. I had a young man, he was probably in his mid-20s the other day, and he said to me, can I ask you a question? How do you get your hair colour like that? Like, what do you dye it? And I said, it's not dyed, it's just what grows out of my head. And he seemed quite confused, but I think I get a lot of positive comments. I mean, in the beginning when I first started growing it out and I had, the little grey stripe at the top, I could see that when I was out and about in public, people were kind of looking at me and they looked somewhat confused, like, is that deliberate? Is she letting herself go? Or so it was a little bit challenging to move through that first sort of 6 months. But once people start to realise, it's deliberate, she's deliberately growing out her hair, I've had such wonderful positive comments. Although I have had some comments from people who have said, aren't you going to why don't you dye your hair again, or aren't you going to dye your hair again? Meanwhile, their partner is standing right beside them and they're fully silver. And I've said, have you asked your partner why they're not dyeing their hair? Like, why is this question directed at me? Perhaps because I was a woman. I'm not too sure.
You know what? It looks great. I'm glad that I'm glad you're taking the bull by the horn and doing what you want to do to make a difference.
Thank you so much.
Both the women of all ages. Let's call it like this: women of all, because we got younger girls that are looking at you as role models, and we need to get rid of this stereotype that if you're gray, you're old, you're worthless, you're whatever. That's bullcrap. Because I at one point had that mindset. I'm like, I'm gonna just let it grow. Now, on the lighter side, before we wrap up, you're taking the social media by the storm, and you're talking about the importance of verbal and nonverbal skills, and this importance to helping to elevate your brand, elevate your place in the workforce, and better, more importantly, to be able to communicate to people in general. Because a lot of people are scared to talk to you eye to eye. They do like this. They look down, or, they're, cat standing, we've lost the ability. Look at the cat. That's my buddy. He just wants to be on TV. Give him his 5 minutes of fame. Is it a boy or girl? Is it a boy or girl cat?
She's a girl, but she presents herself at the most inopportune times. she's very hard to control. She likes to be right in the middle of everything I'm doing.
With that said, we even now have a point to where we have lost the ability to communicate with each other. I think I shared this on the last episode that now we're being validated by likes, subscribe buttons, and even the way in which we communicate now is now a whole different language. It's emojis and WD, WYD, hi, LOL, and some of us still don't know what all of it means. You're in corporate America, HR. This is a two-part question. Why the need to go to social media with verbal and nonverbal skills? And how is it now affecting the labor force, the employment division? Because the younger generation is talking a whole different language.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, I'm deeply passionate about the work that I'm doing in video creation. I think sharing these insights and these practical tips to help people develop their verbal and non-verbal skills is really important. I've really come to understand just how important it is in the workforce, and just in general in everyday life for, developing our relationships. I think body language is, it's this secret language almost. It's subtle, it's incredibly powerful. People are becoming, more curious about how to decode it and how to use it effectively to their advantage, how understanding it can transform their presence and their interactions, whether that be in the workplace or with their family, with their friends, with somebody that they're dating. And, what excites me most is just helping people to master their own body language and their behaviour so that they can communicate with intention and with confidence. Because, when you understand the psychology behind, human behaviour and body language, you're just unlocking the ability to be more influential, to be charismatic, to be more attractive to others, not just physically, but in the way that we connect and the way that we engage with each other. So I'm loving being able to break this down for people and, turning these complex psychological concepts into practical, actionable steps that people can use. So, yes.
So, Liz Rose, how can the viewers reach out to you, support you, and follow your journey?
Well, they can catch me across all social media platforms. My handle is Liz Rose Official, so that's on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of the major social media platforms. So if they look up Liz Rose Official, they should find me.
Thank you so much for taking time to educate, empower the audience. That's what we do here on the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. It's not always about trauma, but it's always about what did you learn from your life's journey? And clearly your life journey is to impact, educate, and empower people from your own personal experience. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show.